It is a really profound and, let's be honest, universally irritating feeling, isn't it? That deep sense that even now, years later, maybe you're 25, just getting started, or perhaps 62, looking back, you're still turning over in your mind how your mother or your grandfather somehow passed their fears onto you, or, maybe spoiled your career path, or just ruined your knack for keeping a relationship stable. We look at all that effort, the relentless analysis of our past, and it just feels so irritatingly modern sometimes, almost uniquely Western, this kind of neurosis, like your whole identity is just this tapestry woven from the mistakes or the unlived dreams of your dead relatives.
Yeah, it does feel that way. But what's really fascinating when you take a step back is realizing this whole psychological experience,
Hmm.
this like ancestral drag,
Hmm.
it's actually not uniquely Western. And it's definitely not just modern either. In fact, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it turns out pretty much every traditional African society has wrestled with really comparable thoughts for centuries.
Wow, okay, so not some fringe idea then.
Not at all. This framework, this deep understanding that the past has this active, like, power in the present, it's basically universal.
That completely reframes it. We're moving from, modern navel gazing to something much older, ancient wisdom. And you're saying it's widespread, not just one or two places.
Exactly. The sources point to major cultures like the Yoruba in West Africa, the Oromo in Ethiopia, even the Hutu in Rwanda and Eastern Congo. And across all these quite different societies, the pattern is strangely consistent. Once your parents or relatives pass away, you absolutely must manage their spirits, their ghosts, with immense care,
Or else.
or else you face what they call grave mischief.
Grave mischief. That sounds ominous. What does that actually mean, though? Bad luck.
Well, it can be, but often it's much more personal, more psychological, or even physical. We're talking about things like sudden impotence or chronic money problems, constant paranoia, recurring headaches, maybe just being totally unable to have a successful marriage. It's serious stuff.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive, then, is exploring how these cultures saw this connection, this power of the past, and crucially, how they treated it long before Freud.
Precisely.
Mm.
We're asking, what actually happens when the wise people of these communities, the healers, pay these ancestral spirits enough attention to, well, loosen their grip, to neutralize them?
Okay, let's dive into that. The Yoruba system sounds really developed. You mentioned a central figure, the diviner, or the babalao.
Yes, the babalao,
Yeah.
a highly revered therapeutic figure. And when someone comes to them with a problem, their mind is giving them difficulties, as they might say, or just ongoing troubles. The immediate assumption, almost like a clinical starting point, is that it must stem from some kind of unresolved issue, some discord in the relationship with their dead ancestors.
Okay, so that sets up this idea of like two realities operating at once.
Exactly. That's central. The ancestors are in an invisible but very active spirit world. It's separate from our tangible everyday world, but, and this is the key part, it's still a very real political and psychological force in the life of the living person. These ancestors aren't just chilling out somewhere. They're influencing things. They're active agents.
And the babalao helps navigate that. How do they bridge that gap between the visible and invisible?
Well, first, they create a very distinct, almost saboted space for communication. The whole consultation is highly ritualized. It's deliberate. And to sort of measure the client's history, the depth of their suffering, the diviner uses this really prized object, the Iro Ifa,
The Iro Ifa. What is that exactly?
often described as a beautifully carved stick or maybe a divination tapper. Think of it as a tool to connect.
Okay, and how does it help create the atmosphere?
The atmosphere is everything. The babalao doesn't just start chatting. It's a performance, in a way. They beat the Iro Ifa rhythmically, maybe on the ground, maybe on a special divination board. And that sound, that specific repeating resonant sound, it does a couple of things. First, it clearly separates this session from the normal hustle and bustle, the noise of the outside world.
Right, it signals something different is happening.
Exactly. And second, maybe more importantly, it actually helps relax the person seeking help. It draws their focus inwards, makes them more receptive, more responsive to thinking about these perturbing ancestors above. It's a way to get into an altered, focused state, really.
I can almost hear that rhythmic beat now, creating this sacred psychological space. And you mentioned carvings on the tapper itself.
Yes, the symbolism is really powerful. Often the Iro Ifa has carvings on it. Typically, you'll see a figure kneeling, looking quite solemn.
Representing the person seeking help, the sufferer.
That's the idea. And then often carved right on top of that kneeling figure's head, there's a bird, the divine bird.
Ooh, bird. Why a bird?
The bird is key. Symbolically, it's the creature that can fly straight into the spirit world. It can communicate with the dead. So the client, the kneeling figure, is visually shown relying on this powerful go-between the babalao, using the tapper, to make that journey into the invisible realm for them.
Wow. So it's like a visual contract right from the start. We're going to the root, to the spirits.
Exactly. It's a powerful commitment, visually and ritually, to tackling the problem at its spiritual and ancestral core.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating for me, the actual intervention. You're saying the babalao doesn't just talk about the ancestor with the client, like, analyzing the past relationship in the way modern therapy might?
That's a key difference. They often go beyond that. They
Yeah.
will directly engage with, sometimes even speak to, the ancestor. That direct engagement is seen as a fundamental way to resolve whatever conflict is playing out in the present.
Can you give an example, like a specific case?
Sure, let's take a sort of clinical example they might encounter. Imagine someone comes in, maybe they're pretty successful on the outside, but they complain about feeling like a total imposter at work.
Ah, the classic imposter syndrome. We hear that a lot today.
Right. And maybe they keep hitting major goals, but then somehow they just sabotage themselves right when things are about to really take off. It's this self-defeating loop.
Okay, so how would the babalao diagnose that? Not just imposter syndrome, presumably.
No, the diagnosis goes straight to the relational, the ancestral. After listening, examining the client's history, their personality, the babalao might suggest something quite specific. They might say, look, your success, your professional thriving, it's actually threatening, maybe even humiliating your long-dead father.
Threatening a dead father.
Yeah. Well, particularly if the client described this father as, say, an impressive figure, but also really tyrannical. Maybe someone who is frustrated in their own ambitions. The idea is the father's spirit is trying to pull the client back down, back to a level of maybe mediocrity or failure that keeps the old family hierarchy intact, makes the father's ghost feel, I don't know, safer, superior.
That actually makes a strange kind of sense. It's like a psychological haunting, but rooted in this inherited insecurity from the father.
Precisely. It externalizes the self-sabotage. It's not you who fears success, necessarily. It's the internalized, tyrannical ghost of your father who fears your success.
Okay, but then what does the babalao do? I mean, if the diagnosis is a vengeful ghost father,
Yeah.
what's the therapy?
Right. What are the action steps? Well, the babalao essentially has two main courses of action, depending on how resistant the spirit seems.
Oh.
First, if the ancestor spirit seems, well, maybe open to reason. Perhaps they're just feeling forgotten or lonely, not purely malevolent. In that case, the babalao facilitates a kind of direct, mediated conversation with the deceased father.
Talking to the ghosts.
Effectively, yes, through ritual, through their connection. They firmly explain, look, your child has every right to thrive, to be happy, to succeed. Your role now is just to rest, be at peace. They're essentially negotiating the terms of engagement between the past and the present, setting boundaries.
Okay, boundary setting with a ghost. I like it. But what if the father's spirit is resistant, still vengeful, still causing this grave mischief?
Then the babalao acts much more decisively. They exercise their full spiritual and therapeutic authority. They will firmly banish that spirit, that toxic influence, pushing them deeper into the spirit world. And they explicitly forbid them from ever intervening again in the world of the living.
Wow, a full-on eviction notice for a ghost.
Pretty much. It's a powerful, final therapeutic act. And crucially, the client witnesses this. They see the severance, they see the boundary being enforced by this authority figure, and psychologically, they internalize that act. The ghost isn't just ignored or denied, it's actively contained, neutralized.
Western culture, especially after Freud and Jung came along, we take such pride in figuring out the psychological impact of the past. We often think we invented the idea that the subconscious past messes with the present. So hearing about this incredibly sophisticated practice from the babalao, what does this tell us about our own narrative? What does it all mean?
Well, I think it means we need to realize, maybe adjust our perspective a bit. Much of what we thought was discovered only in the modern age, well, it seems it was actually known for a very, very long time already. Okay, maybe it was expressed in a different language, a different vocabulary.
Right, we swapped ghosts and banishment for transference and boundary work.
Exactly. But the core psychological need, the underlying mechanism, it seems strikingly identical.
So that fundamental feeling that you've got to do something to stop the weight of someone from your past from just ruining your present life, that's pretty much universal.
It really seems to be, across cultures, across time. The specific method changes, of course, But the core problem feels ancient and widespread.
Which raises a huge point, doesn't it?
It really does. Whether you call them ancestors, spirits, inherited trauma, psychological complexes, maybe just a fallout from bad parenting, the fundamental idea is the same. People from the past are, in a sense, everywhere. And sometimes they're doing, well, somewhat unholy things to our present well-being. The headaches, the impotence, the paranoia, the bad marriage. Both the babalao and the modern therapist suspect it might have something to do with ghosts, metaphorically or literally.
And that feels like the core insight from this deep dive, doesn't it? The wise, whether ancient or modern, have always recognized the need to pay these spirits enough attention. Structured, ritualized attention.
Yes, whether it's through careful analysis or through kind of spiritual banishment. The goal is the same: loosen their grip, so that people can finally get on with the business of living their own lives, not the unfinished lives of their ancestors.
So, connecting this to the bigger picture then, what's the final thought for people listening?
Well, maybe consider this. The specific method for solving the problem looks incredibly different, right? Banishing a ghost with a rhythmic tapper in a communal ritual versus spending years analyzing transference patterns in a quiet therapist's office. They seem worlds apart. But are they? Or are they just two distinct rituals born from different cultures and times, but ultimately designed to achieve the exact same end?
Which is?
Giving the past the psychological weight of the past, the focused attention it demands, so that the present can finally be freed, allowed to flourish on its own terms. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What ghosts, what figures from your own past might you need to actively banish? Or maybe just finally have a firm, boundary-setting conversation with?